My name is Grandmaster Jesse Kraai, and today we are talking about what it takes to make 900chess.com. Now, first of all, the average rating of everyone who's ever been to chess.com is 775. So 900 is a big achievement. If you think about everyone who's ever visited a gym, it would be kind of similar, and you would have all kinds of different bodies, but the ones who were rated 900, they would already start to look a little cut, right? So these are no chumps here at 900, and it's starting to get a little competitive. First, I want to share now what our rating translations are here. So Dojo, that's 700, and Lichess, we're talking about 1435 to 1500. Okay. Now, one of the interesting things that I've observed in this category of player is we're at the stage where simply hanging your stuff isn't the only factor in the game. So here with all of these, I'm putting a percentage on what really decides games here. And so for 900, I'm saying it's about 75% is still determined by people hanging stuff, but it's not as much as the lower cohorts. About 13% is the use of time, people still going too fast, very much so. And then 12% now development, activation of the pieces. And we're gonna see that in the person we look at today, all of these factors, or most of them. And like in all these videos, I try to put a personal face on the struggle that it's gonna take to make it to the next level. So here we are, we're gonna look at wrenches and benches. I like this guy a lot. And let's just think about his quest. First of all, he's coming back after 20 years away. We should say it's not easy to make progress once you're older. That's just part of the truth. I can testify, right? So that's part of his struggle. Using the Chestnut Pro, I think that's great. Also has an OTB. We're gonna look at some of his OTB games at a club that he's managing. Very useful resource to be able to get that kind of OTB play in. Okay, next thing I want you to see is that wrenches and benches is going at it all the time, working very consistently on his chess. That kind of discipline is what's gonna take to make it to the next level, but also it's the kind of discipline where you can see in his rating graph that since joining the dojo last year, the man has gained 377 points. Now that said, you can also see that that gain has plateaued out a little bit. For everyone, there's going to come a point where it becomes a little harder to move up. It gets more competitive, right? You're dealing with some cut people in the gym. Okay, so let's go look at what he's done first of all. And the first thing I want to say is the man has done a lot. Okay. He has been playing a lot of games. He's been annotating quite a bit of games, right? Tactics, he's doing a lot. He's done the pole guards. Now we're moving on to the maiden twos. He's done a bit of those. He has got the benchmarks, 21 and 33, of the Puzzle Russian Survival that usually indicate you're ready for the next level. So tactically, that suggests he is already there. Interesting to me that he stopped there. It's as if this is say, yeah, I made it, that's what I need, and I'm gonna stop there, and then when I make it to the next level, I'll make it to the next benchmark. Also has basically finished this Everyone's First Chess Workbook. I think a criticism that I want to apply to my own website, our website, the dojo, is interestingly, maybe we haven't given him enough. There might not be enough going on here. And we see he's gone and done a bunch of different things, like this defense, checkmating patterns, anti-blunder. He's doing other things because he has yet to make it, and he's already finished most of our tasks. He has done a lot of our middle games and strategy, plus some other stuff. He's done the rook mate and the queen mate. We've talked about how at this level still, we want to be imagining the materialistic win. That is, we take our opponent's stuff and then we mate them later with a queen or a rook. And with opening, we want him to be doing very little. We're going to talk about that when we get into his games. Quick time out here. Did you know that the dojo is an incredible site with tactics, a database, a community of people trying to improve, a training program? All of this is going on at our site. So go check it out. ChessDojo.club. Hit the link in the description. So let's move over to it. Bang. This is a game he played, I believe, at a club. And that's why we don't have time. So I can't actually speak to his time usage. Okay, so let's get into it. A little weird, E3. And what we're going to see is that he has an opening system. And to my mind, this opening system isn't necessarily helpful to him. A lot of times that's the way it is with beginning players, where I would like them to see what are the principal moves. So the principal moves here would be here, here, here. Even knight c3 is a principal move. I feel even g3 is a principal move. Not the end of the world to play e3, but I want us to be sensitive to something, and that is that this bishop is blocked. And we're going to see that if we want to make a story of this game, it's that he is not sensitive to the problems of this bishop. Okay, let's get into it. Fine. And here's this thing, the so-called stonewall. A lot of people love this. And this was a little funny, knight c6, by the way, because it blocked the c pawn. It's not the end of the world, but black needs to be sensitive to that. All right, d5 and g6. Why is g6 poor? g6 is poor because the bishop is already out. Doesn't need another pawn move. So either bishop e7 or something like knight b4 followed by c5, just to get that pawn involved in the central fight. Okay, so one thing that I would want from him in the annotations is to mark it when somebody loses a tempo like that. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Why is he doing it? It's all part of his setup, right? It's all part of his setup. Castles, and now e4. And I don't mind this move, even though it's a pawn move. I don't mind it because we are increasing the scope of our poor piece. Okay, snip, snap. Also very nice about this e4 move is this knight on e4 wasn't the greatest, but he's definitely standing better on e4. Snip, snap, knight e7. Little controversial because it's not developing. However, it's not the easiest thing to come up with a great plan for black, right? Castles, good move. Rook b8. Black wants to play something like b6 and bishop b7. Queen a4. What I like about this move is that it develops with tempo, right? So now queen a7 is a legitimate problem for black. a6. And now, here we're going to see knight e5, which I think is fine. Now, the reason I think it's fine is because black's main objective here is to fix this piece. So bishop d7, c6. Knight e5 will make that plan a little bit difficult. However, we must recognize that this piece must get fixed. Notice no one's hung anything yet. No one's hung any pieces yet. f6, controversial but understandable, right? Now, f5, I don't know. Given that e5 square. Now, at this stage though, white has to be saying, that's great, but what do I do with this guy? Gotta be sensitive. Bishop f3, queen b3, and now hanging a critical pawn. Now, I want to stress, in basically all of these games that I see at this level, somebody's hanging something. That is what decides the game. Doesn't completely decide this one, but those are the mistakes that define and decide the games at this level. Okay, so he gladly takes, thank you very much. And now comes in with knight e5, which I think is actually a very interesting move. Now, one of the things that's interesting is later in a couple moves, he's going to say, oh, my dark square bishop, how come it's not in the game? And so here, One of the great things about annotating our games is we can become sensitive to the things that we miss strategically in the game. And here was the point where we can call this move, White's still doing great, by the way, but we can call this move impulsive. It might feel right because you're like, oh, I'm checking the dude. How great, right? But the problem is that our bishop is not out. Okay, so a really nice move from the perspective of this guy who should be talking. Now, he's not just talking for himself. He's like, I got to get out of the way for Mr. Rook to come in too. These are the things we want people to feel, and it will come with a little bit of experience and going over their games. Now, FE5, bang, look at this thing. Oh, wow, amazing. We're killing him. Okay, now White's still doing great, but here's where it starts to go a little wrong. White plays bishop d2. Now, we're still okay, but we have to now be sensitive to how are we going to deal with getting that bishop out. Now, I think one tactic that White should investigate is this one, bam. And the beauty of that would be that if you take, no matter how you take, I'm going to pin and win. If you take, and if you just move back, then I can maneuver my bishop to somewhere beautiful. Go looking for the mate. We really want to activate that guy.
Did you know that the dojo is so much more than a podcast? We've got tactics, a database, a training plan for everybody, a community of people trying to get better. So come check us out, ChessDojo.club. Hit the link in the description.
Okay, bishop d2, knight d5, and now a chess crime. A crime against chess, my friends. In this position, black has actually set us up for c4. My suspicion is that maybe both players were counting on rook e8, but then we got this nice little check to the miserable king. Okay, now, White should really be thinking, is there another way besides me playing bishop d5? Because this is our good bishop. Why is it our good bishop? Because all of our pawns are in dark squares. And when we take this thing, we are now left with a bad bishop, and black has this amazing scope. Now, the safe move for black would be to take with the queen. He takes with the bishop. Still okay. So notice now something has happened that's a little bit abstract. I don't think Wrenches and Benches is aware of it, but this is what happens when we analyze our games, is that now we have a situation where we have opposite color bishops, and black's bishop is better. So even though white is up a pawn, there's no reason to think that black has any problems. In fact, maybe black should be the one who is more happy here, because if they can get an initiative over here with, say, something like queen d7, c6, I'd rather be black. Rather be black, because white can't do anything on his color, the dark squares, right? Okay, so here we go. Rook ae1. Now, what he later notices is that his pawn on a2 is hanging. So this is now the second time in the game where somebody's hung something. So rook fe1 probably is what we want to write in our annotations. Again, though, black is fine. So he would get a trade, and now he goes rook e1. Now, it's probably unavoidable that we trade rooks, because if we say play b3, which I guess is what we should have done, then rook e2 is going to force the trade of rooks anyway. Then in terms of, say, learning about chess, what we should say is, let's say this was probably best, and we look at this. Black wants to exchange rooks, and then the bummer of this bad boy is that in general, when we have bishops of opposite color, unless something amazing is going on for the white pieces, there's going to be no way to progress. And that's because when you imagine starting to push the passed pawn, let's say the d pawn can become passed, Even if we get it past, the light squares will be owned by black. They will be a firm blockade and you can't talk to the light squares at all. It's only black who is talking to the light squares here. Okay, so then mistake. Also, rook e4, mistake, hanging, not taking the pawn on a2. King f2, finally black sees it. Okay, king f3, maybe we should take to at least get an isolated pawn. That's no good. And full blunder, and kind of crazy. He's like, yeah, that just gives away a pawn, but it's worse. No, oh no. So would be really interesting when we do these OTB games to write down the times. I know it's a little bit of a headache, but it will help us analyze the game, to think about our decisions, because here, my guess is black also played very impulsively and played fg4 when rook takes e1. If you just using a little bit of time on your clock thinking about what is my opponent hanging. And by the way, why would you think that? Because at this level, as we've seen, somebody's going to hang something. So the most critical thing to do, the thing that will decide the games, is reflecting for a momentito on, wait, is somebody hanging something? Because as we see, it's going on all the time. Now, I want to stress, learning not to give away your coconuts. It is the hardest skill to learn. Even as a GM, I'll still sometimes hang something, right? We are developing that grip on the board. That is so critical. And one of the things I think we've seen here as we've progressed up the ladder is we are definitely seeing people hang stuff less, right? But it's still the decisive factor. Obviously, black's winning the game if they take on e1. Instead, we saw this, and they just said, you know what? Let's make up a draw here. Okay, so then I guess it actually continued, but he stopped here. Fine. So there it is, wrenches and benches. I love this guy. He's making incredible progress with the dojo, and hopefully I said a couple things that are helpful to his chess development today. All right, bye.